Weird things people encountered on their porches. For real. When photographer Tim Newton was rudely awoken by footsteps outside his house in Anchorage, Alaska, he wanted to give his disturbers a real piece of his mind. Tim got up and hazily made his way to the window, ready to confront his awakeners. Only when he saw who it was, he couldn't believe his eyes. 2 kittens were rolling around in the snow on his deck. But these weren't just any kittens. They were lynx kittens. Seeing just one of these wild cats is a rare spot, but seeing 2, that's really unlikely. And then something even more incredible happened. 5 more kittens sauntered up and their mother, Tim, was awestruck. Instead of heading back to bed as he planned, he tiptoed out of his bedroom and over to the porch doors for a better look. Wild lynx encounters are typically very short. They're usually timid and run for cover as soon as they've been spotted. Tim inched the porch door open and tentatively stepped outside. The mother seemed cautious of him, but miraculously, stayed put, even with all her children around her. In fact, the lynx family were utterly captivated by Tim's presence. Rather than flee, they sniffed around him and were particularly fascinated by the camera he'd run outside to snap them with. The whole heart-warming encounter went on for around 40 minutes until the friendly felines eventually took their leave, but they left him with an experience he'll never forget. Boxy Bandit. One morning back in 2019, they woke up to find a load of old tube TVs had been left on their doorsteps overnight. Over 50 boxes had mysteriously appeared, each one's spookily placed to face in towards a different house. Who's the Boxy Bandit? It's just some harmless prankster, but that's a darn good costume if I've ever seen one. The identity of this crafty culprit has never been revealed, but they did the very same thing to a nearby neighborhood just a year earlier. Their identity was never revealed. Whoever it is, they're committed to the bit. Little old lady, who? This one place was so cold. I had to use the weird fluffy stuff in the wall as a blanket. It made me cough really bad. But for all of my domestic woes, I've never experienced anything like Reddit user Short Dragonfly 8 and her roommate. Some time ago, the two used to rent a second-floor apartment in a big old house in a sketchy part of town. There were 2 sets of stairs to her apartment accessible from a large ramp-around porch that surrounded the building. Short Dragonfly's roommate worked pretty late, but one night when she came home, she noticed something different. The light that was always on above the porch wasn't on. Putting it down as nothing more than a blown bulb, she carried on towards the stairs, but suddenly, a deep manly voice called out to her from the darkness. "Don't mind me. I'm just a harmless little old woman. I'm not here to hurt you." That's exactly what someone who wants to hurt you would say, right? Scared for her life, the roommate bolted around the opposite side of the house, up the other set of stairs and burst into the safety of the flat. Once the roommate had caught her composure, she phoned the police to ask a patrol car to swing by. But by the time the authorities showed up, the stranger had vanished. Cambridge cheater. 9-year-old Toby Taylor from Cambridgeshire, England might think twice before getting a new bicycle. Toby was riding home one day when he suddenly spotted a cheetah in his backyard. And it bolted straight at him. Cheetahs are the fastest land mammal, capable of running at a staggering 70 miles per hour. Right as the cat pounced, Toby ditched his bike and sprinted towards the house as fast as he could. The bike was torn apart in seconds, but it bought just enough time for Toby to zip home and slam the door behind him. Not far from Toby's house, keepers at Hamerton Zoo had noticed one of their big cats, a Kia, had gone on a walkabout. Due to a fault in the electric fence around the enclosure, a Kia had slipped out to search for food. After chowing down on an unsatisfactory 2-course meal of wheels, a Kia was now sat in the middle of Toby's yard hungrily staring straight into the house. Luckily, zookeepers arrived only 20 minutes later to collect their speedy stray and everything was fine. Poogan's Porch Poltergeist. The restaurant in Charleston, South Carolina serves food and drink like any other. Only many people don't go for that. They go to see one of the regular guests instead, Zoe St. Amand. Alright, what's so special about her? Zoe St. Amand is a ghost. See, Before Poogan's Porch was a restaurant, Zoe lived there with her sister Elizabeth. These inseparable siblings did everything together and didn't care much for the company of others. Devastatingly though, Elizabeth passed away in 1945. Zoe was crushed and became increasingly withdrawn as her mental health deteriorated until late one evening, she left the house and ran down the road, screaming her sister's name. Because of this, she was placed under specialist care and passed away soon afterwards. But that's far from the end of this tale. When the house became a restaurant around 1976, unexplainable things started happening. One night, the owner was closing up alone when a wooden stool crashed to the floor all by itself. Then the door started violently swinging open and banging shut. Strangest of all was when a group of amateur ghost hunters checked in for a meal. During the food, one of the guests opened a paranormal activity tracking app on her phone. It went crazy, claiming tons of supernatural energy was surrounding her.